here at NAB 2022. This is one of the bigger streams that we've been waiting to do and bring to you guys. We are going into the EXA relayer with our buddy Henry / MasterHW. I know you guys asked a bunch of questions about it yesterday and when you were going to see more of it. This is the stream / video for you. Very excited. This is going to for those of you guys that are providers, this is going to help us get that data that we need. So, all right, let's wait for a couple people to get in here. If you want to come on over here. Here's the man, the myth, the legend. He's going to be doing another showcase for you guys today. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited for this demo.
You like doing this demo more than doing the Xaminer demo?
I'm excited for it. A little more excited. Well, the Xaminer, I love the Xaminer, but people know what it is. People kind of are familiar with it. So there's lots of new features, and that's what we went over yesterday. But at this point as well, people don't know what the relayer is. People are interested. They haven't really seen it. So I'm happy to bring that to them.
Awesome. So, I want to jump in. I'm like foaming at the mouth to get you going, but it's like I want a few more people here just to see this, So how has your experience with NAB 2022 been?
It's been pretty great. Yeah, we're out here all day, seeing lots of people, getting some good leads. Actually, business cards, people saying hit us up after NAB. They're interested. That'll be cool.
Yeah, I think you've done the most talking out of the booth, with the exception of Ken. He's over there talking. How are you feeling vocally and everything?
Yeah, it's load balancing really. I feel like a basketball player at this point. Just drinking lots of water, getting rest, sitting down when you can, trying to keep the energy high for the whole day. But it's been manageable so far,
Okay. Have you been able to get out of the booth and see anything yet?
I haven't yet. I heard that there's Teslas driving people around. I'll have to go over and visit that. That'd be cool.
If you can't get to visit it, I will be doing a NAB 2022 recap video. I've got some footage of it. It's almost like you can live vicariously through that there. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to be enough banter. I know there's some people here foaming and ready to see it just like myself. So, you ready to run it down?
Let's get into it.
All right. Let's switch over. And if you, just real quick, if you want to introduce yourself one more time, because I'm going to snip that out for video, and take it away.
I'm Henry, here with SCP, ready to show the relayer in action. So, here yesterday, we saw the console. I'll go through it again. So this is the new console menu that when you log into your account, you'll be greeted with this overview. You can see your Xaminers that are registered to your account. And if you have relayers open as well, you'll be able to see them, as well as this overview of our beautiful distributed data center. It's growing quick, isn't it? Wow. So, the relayer itself, the relayer lives in software, but we sell this machine as well. So this is an out-of-the-box, ready-to-go option, kind of like the Xaminer, where it's ready to go. You buy it, you set it up, and it's just ready to go off the bat. Similar kind of thing with the EXA relayer. However, if you have your own equipment as well, you'll be able to download it and run the relayer stack as well. So getting more into it, if we click over to manage our relayers, we're greeted with the relayer dashboard. So this relayer right here is running on this machine. So we've had it running for a couple days here. We can see the different components of the relayer. They're all running beautifully. And it's from this menu as well, that if we go over to configuration, we can hit host selection. And this is really cool. From here, we can say, since I'm located in the Americas, I only want maybe providers in the Americas. Or you could say, I want providers everywhere. Or you could say, so I give it a moment, there's a lot of countries in the world. Or you could start over and say, just the big countries. I only want providers from countries that are some of the biggest in the world. So you can scroll down and you can see by country, you get to see how many providers are in each one, and you can filter. You can say that I want my relayer to only give data to providers that have been up for over 30 days, with over 98% uptime, and Xaminer DIY or all. And then you're showed of the total providers in the country, there are this many left after the filters are applied. And it's that final number here at the bottom that your relayer will choose from as it allocates data out to the network. So speaking of that data allocation, this is getting into the meat of what the relayer is and how it works. So the relayer itself will be targeted to enterprise users. So these are people who already use cloud storage, namely in existing protocols like S3. Since that's kind of the de facto standard, we're happy to support what apps people already use, such as perhaps Duplicati. So after you set up your relayer, if you're using an app like Duplicati to set up and point to your relayer, it's as easy as going over to something like Destination. And over here, you just choose S3 compatible. You drop in the address that's created when you create your relayer, and you provide it the access keys as well, that are your credentials to be able to access your data. So from here, it's as simple as that. If you're already using S3 applications, there's more. I mean, we can show, this is WinSCP, this is another one. Once again, S3 protocol. Drop in your address, your access keys, log in, boom, all your files show up, able to access it just like any other cloud. So, once you've set up your relayer, that's how you would use it. The whole idea is that it's a drop-in replacement for any existing cloud usage. So the relayer itself has a lot going on for it. I mean, it's sending out data to the network, it's keeping track of where it put everything. There's a lot going on here. Choosing everything, billing, management. So getting into some of its more specific uses, you might notice that it has hard drives. It's got 4 hard drives in this configuration. This is a 64 terabyte EXA relayer. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Ooh.
So for those of you who wonder why it looks like a pancake as opposed to the Xaminer, which is a more normal looking device, this is called a 1U rack. So enterprise and IT solutions, they typically use this rack style of configuration. So they'll have a big cabinet, and you essentially buy a rack that's either 1U, which is the thickness. You could have 2U, which would be double thick, and it goes on. The U refers to the thickness. So this is 1U, which is the thinnest type of server. You'll be able to just slot it into your cabinet with these, and it fits in any IT kind of enterprise configuration. So that's really who we're targeting with this. But once again, if you have your own hardware, if you have your own device, you can bring that as well and just download and run the relayer application, and you'll be good to go as well. So how the relayer might actually look in an organization, they might buy the beautiful relayer here. They'll deploy it in their IT infrastructure, their existing infrastructure. They'll set up the credentials, they'll go through the setup process, and then they'll have their URL that they can drop in to replace any existing cloud storage. They'll have their access keys, and from there, anyone on their network or anyone who's using an application can just point directly to it from anywhere. So I mean, for an example here, this is one of our cloud relayers that we have set up here. So this is a bucket called video. From here we have a couple MP4 videos, and it's as simple as clicking download, and it starts downloading in the browser. Now the speeds aren't superb, that's because we're at a trade show, a lot of booths are hogging the internet. So that's on our side. The relayer itself is very performant. And this is one way that you could use it in Minio. There's so many others. You could mount it as a drive right in Windows through rclone. That's something I've done actually myself, and it's really cool just being able to open File Explorer, see a drive called Relayer, and you look inside and everything's there, and you can go to anywhere in the world. And since your credentials aren't specific to your local network or anything, you can go anywhere in the world. You have your access key, you have the URL, your data is in your control, you have full access to it, no one else does. So The device itself, once again, it has the 4 hard drives. What are these used for, you might ask? Because the whole purpose, right, is that you're sending data out to the network that's received by the relayer. So what does it actually need the drives for? So the drives can be used for cache, of which there's mainly 2 kinds of cache. The first that you might run into is called the upload cache. So what's typical on these kinds of distributed networks and an enterprise infrastructure is that your internal network will be maybe a faster speed than your internet speed out to the rest of the world. So you might have 10 gig within your own network, but then you might have only 2 gig internet out to the rest of the world. So if you set up an upload cache, let's say these 2 disks are my upload cache, what you can do is any device on your local network will upload straight to the upload cache at the full speed, and then potentially overnight or over a longer amount of time, it'll be able to drain that cache out to the network at that 2 gig speed. So that allows you to upload at the max speed available straight to the machine, and then when the relayer is available or when it's possible, given the network conditions, it'll upload that out to the network and drain that cache. Now the second kind of cache, let's say maybe these 2 disks are used for, this could be the local cache. So the local cache, the idea behind it is that your most frequently accessed materials, like your hottest files, let's say everybody's sharing the same PDFs and Excel documents or whatever, instead of having to go out to the network and pull that data every time somebody wants to access it, instead what you can do is still have that data on the network, so you still have the redundancy and the availability, but you also keep a copy local, actually on the relayer, so that whenever somebody goes to access it, it's available on the spot, essentially. It's already on your network, so that it's right there, able to serve it. It uses less bandwidth, so it's not having to pull those shards. So yeah, it's a way of boosting performance and reducing bandwidth usage by keeping the hottest data local. But of course, the balance between the upload cache and the local cache, that depends maybe on your kind of workloads. So if you're someone that's doing cold storage and backups, hopefully if you're doing backups, you're not needing to access them a whole bunch. Maybe only in the case of something.
We have a question. Does the upload cache let you use the data while it's in transition being uploaded?
I believe so, yeah. And as well, both types of cache are encrypted, right? So if anybody were to say, oh, this is a beautiful relayer, why don't I pop the disk out and go home with it and plug it in and see, maybe see what was in there. Everything is totally encrypted. It's encrypted when it gets to the relayer. By the time it's in the cache, it's encrypted. When it goes out to the network, it's encrypted and sharded. You're in full control of your data at all points. This is a highly secure, well-engineered system. So, we can continue through our relayer menu. So, over here on the relayer side, if you were to click Add New, what you would see, you would have the option of either setting up a cloud relayer, so this would be a type of relayer that's hosted potentially in another facility that you don't actually directly manage yourself. So for some use cases that makes sense. For people who are maybe small-time users, can't justify setting up the actual hardware and the configuration themselves, but they would still like to participate. You can use cloud relayers, which are largely hosted by us. You'll then have the option as well to set up on-premise relayer. So that's the deployment type where you bring your own hardware. You're taking on the responsibility to manage that yourself, but it'll allow you to download the application, set it up, and have full control and take on that responsibility to manage the relayer yourself. Sort of like storage provider. So then in the console, there's also an account and billing section. That's pretty standard for enterprise portals like this, and then the network operations views as well. So this is an example of the kind of telemetry that you might have access to from about your own relayers. So this section is for Xaminers. You can see here, for example, we can see the total network throughput over the last hour or two of all the Xaminers. But down here, you can also see cloud relayers.
These ones are in use, so you can see there's maybe a big upload happening from around then to around then, and then things kind of quieted down. Maybe they finished their upload, it was already sent out to the cache, or it was already sent from the cache to the network. So if you are running your own relayer, this is the kind of information you'd want to have access to as well. So we can show here. Here's an example of an upload that we did yesterday. So across 3 different relayers, we uploaded 1.07 terabyte files on each. So you can see here in the reserved cache, as the file was getting into the cache, it was creeping up, and then it topped out. It had the whole file, and then it starts draining out to the network. And so it's pretty typical to have this kind of Dorito shaped or this triangle shape, because it's filling up the cache. Then it's received the whole data, and then it downslopes when it's draining out to the rest of the network. So you can see here across these 3 relayers, I believe these relayers aren't super fast configs. I think they're only on 1 or 2 gigabit networks each. But we can see with the 3 of them, we hit about 400 megabytes a second, which is in the 3 to 4 gigabit per second range, which is pretty awesome. So the reason I bring up that hardware, one of the coolest things about the relayer is that it really scales with the configuration of the hardware that you can throw at. So you could run it on a kind of low-end machine on maybe a home network, and you won't get the best performance, but that's all right.
I don't understand your question. If you want to rephrase that, someone just asked, what exactly is it running? Proof of what?
Okay, we can get to that.
Okay.
So I'm just going to finish that thought. If for your configuration of the relayer, let's say you have an on-premise configuration, if you have, a serious machine, we're talking like 64 cores, 128 gigs of RAM, you're on like a 10 gig network, like Gen 4 SSD, like this thing's really configured for performance. Running the relayer, you can hit some huge numbers. I mean, we did some testing earlier this year, and we were hitting like 6 gigabits per second. I couldn't figure out why it wasn't going higher, and it turned out we were maxing out the SSD, and it was an NVMe SSD. It was a fast one, and I had never seen that before. I'd never seen. It was a high-end SSD, and we brought it to its knees, and we needed to upgrade to a Gen 4 in order to keep pushing even higher from there, which is pretty awesome. I mean, we're hitting like 7-8 gigabits per second if you can feed it, which is a level of performance that is like so impressive, and I think people are really going to love it. So the question about what is it running, proof of what? So the SC Prime network itself, which is obviously the layer 1 blockchain that we're using here. So the Exa relayer over here and the Xaminer over there, those two are acting in what we call the renter-host protocol. So this was a protocol that was defined kind of 2015, 2016, and it described in a blockchain context how you can conduct contracts and storage across a blockchain of renters, people who are interested in using storage, and then providers or hosts, people who have that extra storage and they're willing to rent out on the internet or using the internet and make that available for use and then earn that passive income. So that layer 1 blockchain that we run, it's using proof of work right now, and it has been for the last 3.5 years that we've been on mainnet. So these miners themselves, the Exa relayer, they're not participating in consensus, so they're not mining blocks. They might be sending transactions, but it's a separate proof of work process that's creating and confirming those blocks. And it's because that's a separate process that we're able to have the Exa miners and Exa relayers focus on just conducting operations related to storage. So that's why the Xaminer is able to be so kind of low power and quiet, because it's not crunching numbers all day. It's focused. It's it really is focused and targeted to just do storage providing on this blockchain. So something else I wanted to touch on, kind of getting into how the contracts work and how it interacts with the blockchain. One of the main things that we're kind of focusing on with the relayer and how that all works is making it so that it's as easy as possible for anyone
enterprises to use. So that's why we went with the S3 protocol and enabled compatibility with thousands of applications that many companies and people are already using by choosing to do that, by choosing to support S3. One of the other big things that we did.
Just a couple comments. So you answer his question. He goes, so it's a big cloud, and he goes, proof of storage? Question mark. LOL.
Yeah, so once again, we're not using storage for a consensus mechanism. So consensus being the kind of technical term for like block mining. So these aren't mining blocks. These are just doing storage, either sending out storage or receiving storage. But it's all listening to a blockchain that is proof of work mined using largely ASICs. Which is something that I think a lot of people don't actually know, that our chain is ASIC mined. I think the storage providing gets a lot of attention, which is great because that's what we're all here for. But I think maybe not a lot of people actually know how our blocks are formed, but that is the case. So getting back to the second big point that we made with choosing to set up the relayer in this way, is that if you're using the relayer, you don't have to touch the SCP tokens or coins at all. We know that enterprise users and businesses largely are hesitant to kind of touch crypto. The accounting department will forever hate them if they choose to do that. And it's a lot of responsibility and potentially liability that they would be hesitant to take that on. And we know that. So the way that we set this up is that the users, the enterprise users, they're billed in US dollars. They know their prices and the rates in dollars. So that's already using existing cloud solutions. That's what they're used to. They prefer paying in real currency. So they pay the corporation. They pay SCP Corp, who bills them in the dollars, and it's the SCP Corp. It's us, essentially, that then handles all the blockchain layer contracting out to the network. So we take on that responsibility of the crypto and the management of those assets that we know corporations largely don't want to take on. So that way, if you're an enterprise user or you're a business or you're someone who's interested in running a relayer, it's already as similar as possible to how that would existing, how it would work on existing storage clouds. So from there, do we have another question?
No, not yet.
I'll give you guys a moment to get in some questions.
I know that there's a question on everyone's mind, potentially, that...
That's right. When will these be available? When
there you
can
go.
Get a relay? So, pretty excited to announce, starting next week, relayers will be available for purchase on Xaminer.net. It's the same place that you get Xaminers. The Exa relayer will be made available there starting next week. So you can get going and up and running as soon as possible to start sending data out to the network and getting away from other storage clouds where you're not in control of your data. Charge an arm and a leg for storing the data and for accessing it. There's so many just innovations that we bring with the relayer, and I'm excited for people to be able to start running it starting next week when orders are.
So next week, right now, I believe we're April 26th?
That's right. It's April 26th today.
Perfect.
So starting next week, Exa relayer will be made available.
Awesome. No questions have popped up just yet, but we can go ahead and take a peek at everything and just wait for a few minutes. And in case you guys have any questions, we want to get them out now if you're watching on the stream. And that's about all I got. Still on a waiting list. Okay, so that's in regards to the Exa miners. We'll have more information about that later.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm in a position to be making any announcements about Xaminers, but I will say, stay tuned this week.
Stay tuned.
I think you'll be happy.
Oh, official website. Didn't you have the website set up?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Sparky says hi. 2MS1G brought that up. And what's ROI? That's ROI and the mining conversations for a different time.
Yeah, so I mean, Exa relayer, it's not a passive income machine. I think this is for replacing, if you already use cloud storage, this is how you access the network.
So yeah, that's what a lot of the questions that popped up just now is that I think some of the individuals watching are looking at this as a mining opportunity for a relayer. The relayer, in layman's terms and nerdy dude terms, do these include the exploding motherboards mentioned in the speech at the party? Just kidding. No. The relayer is essentially what's going to be companies are going to purchase to store their data, and that's going to be utilized to put everything on the Xaminers over there. So us miners need this to get profit on that. So if you're a crypto miner and you're in Exa services for the mining opportunity, that's not the piece of equipment that you have right there.
However, you want as many of these in the wild as possible.
Yes.
These are the guys that are feeding data to your Xaminers. This is what's going to drive adoption. These relayers, we're excited to get them out to the world.
Yes.
So,
all right, let's look at the website.
Yeah, let's look at the website. So for the longest time, exapro.net, that is our main kind of landing page for Exanet services. For a while, this was more of a splash page or kind of a placeholder, and we know that you guys were eager to kind of have a more professional and complete website available so you could maybe send to other people, read more. So we launched exapro.net, kind of revamped.
Why the drive in the relayer? Is it temporary storage for the relayer until they send the data to the Xaminers?
Yeah, so that describes the upload cache, which was the first type of cache that we discussed. So the relayer receives the data that's given to it by the users, and it kind of holds on to it and it encrypts it and then sends it out to the network. So that's the upload cache that we discussed as well. A second type of cache called the local cache, and that is used for keeping the most frequently accessed data, keeping that local, so that when somebody goes to open that file, it's already on the network. They can just serve it to you and not have to use the bandwidth as well.
That's the joy of being a streamer. You start getting into a topic and someone's question will throw you off and interrupt the whole thing.
Yeah, so take a look around exapro.net.
Let's just show that. There you go, official website.
Yeah, there you guys go. Kind of take a look through it. Why use Exanet services? Security, durability, availability. So that describes our that's the innovation of the relayer using the distributed network. So because we give so many, because the files are split into data and like parity shards as well. The parity is the technical term of essentially having redundancy. So because the data is redundant and it's those pieces are given across so many providers. I mean, like every file could be shared across hundreds or thousands of different providers. That's how we also achieve the durability and the availability. So because your data is across hundreds and thousands of providers, you would need so many of them to go down in order to not access your file that it's, that's how we're able to achieve like 99.999 whatever availability. Because even though each provider on its own might have only 97% uptime, 98% uptime, which is still quite good. We know that 97% uptime, 98% uptime, I mean, what are you going to be telling a customer? You can't access your file like a couple hours a week? But since it's across so many different providers, if each one only needs to be like 97 or 98% uptime.
Alan, if you want to come see us, go to the West Hall. We're next to the AWS booth.
Yeah, come say hi.
He said he's here in Vegas, just can't find us.
Wicked.
We're at if you're in Vegas, we're at the convention center.
Yeah, come over to the West Hall, say hi. So it's because we're employing so many different providers, and each one might only have 97% uptime or whatever. But since you have hundreds of them, they add up to having incredible availability and performance as well. Since when you go to access your data, you're pulling it from so many different providers, even if each one doesn't have that fast internet. The total bandwidth that you have access to is the sum of all of that, which is an enormous amount. So that's how we achieve kind of those three. The compatibility.
Is there any pricing on the Exa relayer yet?
Not that we can announce today. So the compatibility and the environmental friendly. So happy to talk about those two as well. So the compatibility, what we discussed earlier, the whole relayer stack is optimized for the S3 protocol, which so many applications that people use and love already use. So like Veeam, Commvault, Acronis, WinSCP, Duplicati. There's so many different kinds of storage applications that companies and businesses around the world already use. They get to keep using those. They don't have to change their workflow. Just drop in the new URL. Instead of pointing at those guys, you can point at us, or you can point at your own cloud relayer or your own local relayer.
Yes, Sergeant Fluffy.
As well. And the environmental friendly, this is a side that I think not as many people get to consider. So if you're storing data today in a huge data center controlled by one of the huge tech companies, those facilities, I mean, they spend just as much money on cooling the computers as they spend on the power to run them. If you've ever been inside those facilities, you know they're so loud, they're so hot, and that's because they're shoving in so much compute and so much storage into these buildings that it's just not a very efficient way to run them. But they have to do it because to hit the kind of numbers that they hit without going distributed, that's what you have to do. But we have this new architecture, we have this new innovation where we are distributing data around to everybody's like Xaminers and providers. And because each one is just kind of low powered up and small enough that it's not throwing off a ton of heat, you don't need to spend just as much money and power on cooling it as you do on running it like the other guys. It's just a so much more environmentally friendly and efficient way to run a data center by just having these little pods in everyone's homes and coffee shops around the world. It is genuinely a more efficient approach, not just in terms of performance and availability and all that stuff, which is awesome and we've discussed lots already about, but from an energy efficiency perspective as well. This is a more green cloud. So, take a look around exapro.net if you get the chance. Yeah, you can see more as well if you'd like to read on some of those specific things. But here we have the X relayer, which once again is being made available starting next week.
And then you can go onto this website and it'll direct you to xaminer.net to purchase if you land here before the site.
That's right. So
cool.
Xaminer.net is where they'll be available. Stay tuned in our Discord, our Twitter. You won't miss it. We'll make it loud. We're happy to announce this thing. But yeah, keep an ear out for that, or an eye out, and look forward to it. Yes, we are.
Awesome. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. If you guys have any more questions, comments, or concerns, we can definitely leave them. This will upload shortly, and then I'll be here at the booth with everyone, and I can go directly to the source here and respond to your comments.
Yeah.
So give it some time. Once again, thank you for doing these. It's,
yeah, cheers.
Yeah, so you might be a YouTube star. You don't even know it just yet. So,
we'll see.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yep, thanks for coming, and we'll probably see you guys here in a little bit. After I finish the show today, I will be doing I'm going to step away so that way you don't have to. Sure. After we finish the show today, we're going to be doing like kind of a breakdown stream where we kind of go over everything and just kind of, guys answer questions from there, like the actual event, some of the stuff that I saw. I got a fun little announcement with someone that I spoke to earlier. And so, yeah, we're going to just probably go back to the hotel room, grab a beer, we'll have a conversation. So other than that, we're going to do another stream here from the booth a little bit later this afternoon. We're going to get some lunch. Do you want to go to In-N-Out? Hop in an Uber? It's like a mile up the road.
Why not?
I've been dying for In-N-Out. So yeah, we're gonna go to lunch and we're gonna come back and do one more stream here from the booth with Ken. We were gonna do it yesterday, but some stuff came up, so we'll definitely get that done. But like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys here in a little bit.